Hey everybody, I am taking advantage of a little bit of sunlight coming in through the window to show you guys a crochet project that I finished not too long ago. I'm still waiting on one thing to completely finish it, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but it is a poncho, and I'm going to get up and move my chair out of the way so I can show you what it looks like. So I will be right back. Okay. So this is the poncho, and I'm going to step back a little more so you can see the full thing. Okay, maybe. Okay, I think you can see the full thing now. It's fairly long. It comes down just below my knees, and I wanted it long. I had to make it long to be able to cover my wrists. So I'll sit down and talk about it some more, but it's a basic granny type stitch poncho. It has a separate cowl that you can wear with or without it, and it has a drawstring on the neckline. So I'll go ahead and let you guys see it. That's the back. Alright, I'm going to pull up my chair and I'm going to talk some more about it. Okay guys, I'm back. God, my glasses are caught in my hair. I'm going to talk about the pattern itself. I've got, glasses are in the hair. I've got my Ravelry page for the pattern up on my monitor, so I'm going to read off some details. The pattern is from Drops Design, and it's pattern number 166-35, and it's called the Gaucho pattern, and it is crochet. And it is worked, the pattern says Aran weight yarn. I find that Aran and worsted are pretty much interchangeable. Now I've made this twice. The first one I made it using the exact yarn and colorway as pictured on the pattern. And it was an Aran yarn. It was a little bit heavier, but this one is a little bit lighter yarn, and I didn't have any, it worked up exactly the same to me. It's a free pattern. I don't know if I just mentioned that or not. It says to use hook 5.5 millimeter, but again, you have to work your gauge. I honestly don't remember what size hook I used on this. I know that's bad, but you know, really with crochet and even, you know, in knitting, you know, the hook, it says, is just your starting point. You check your gauge. Gauge isn't really that important with this, and I'll get into that as well. This is what I would consider an advanced beginner. If you can make a granny square, you can make this pattern. So it comes in 3 size ranges. It comes in small, medium, large, extra large, and 2X, 3X. And the one that I made is a 2X, 3X. Now, about the sizing, the 2X, 3X in this pattern is generous because the t-shirt I'm wearing underneath my poncho is a 4X. So I wear a 4X. And the 2X, 3X poncho, as you can tell, is more than adequate to cover me. But if you wear below a small medium, if you were above a 2X, 3X, that's not going to be a problem. And I'll explain that. 2 things with the pattern that I modified when I made both of my ponchos. First of all, the pattern is written, includes a row of fringe about 3/4 of a way down the body of the poncho, just laying on the top of your work, not at the edge, not a fringed border, but just a row of fringe laying across the work. I didn't like that. I mean, it looks kind of cool, and I have enough yarn to go back and do it if I want to, but it's been my experience that it's really hard to get fringe to not start looking shabby after a while, especially in like this type of a yarn that's got a lot of fluff and a halo to it. So I just, and the other yarn that I used for my first poncho, I just liked it without it. I can always go back and put it in if I want. It's totally optional. I mean, you could put the fringe on the edge if you wanted. It's a simple pattern. You can do a lot of modifications with it. That's why I kind of like it. So the second modification I made is the drawstring for the neckline. The pattern shows it being made as a twisted type of a rope, which is made out of several pieces of yarn twisted kind of back on themselves to make like a twisted rope. And the first one I made, I made a braided drawstring, and the second one, this one, I just knitted an I-cord. And this is just a 3-strand knitted I-cord. And I left my tails on the end of my I-cord because on the original, when you tie off the end, your extra tails of yarn, you trim and it makes a tassel. I didn't like necessarily how it looked just ending. I think I want to maybe find some kind of, you know, rustic 70s macrame-ish type beads to put on the end, possibly. And if I do put beads on the end, I wanted to have the tail to make it a little bit easier to thread them. But if I end up not putting beads on it, I'm just going to, you know, put the end of my tail through a yarn needle and just run it back up into here so it's nice and neat and tidy. But those are the only two modifications I made to the pattern. I didn't add the fringe. Actually, I made more modifications, I lie. I didn't add the fringe. I made an I-cord drawstring, and I ended up, does it call for this in the end? I don't know. I am so not prepared for this video. I thought, oh, I'm just going to show you guys what I made, not thinking you might want to actually learn about what I made. So, yeah. Yeah, it just calls, it doesn't call for you to do any kind of a border, and I put 2 rows of single crochet at the border simply because I thought it gave a more finished look. The same thing with the cowl. I put 2 rows of single crochet at the edge. So it has a detachable cowl, or a separate cowl. You don't have to even make the cowl if you don't want to, but I think it's kind of neat to have it. You can see how the drawstring works on the neckline. You know, I've got it fully open here, but if I wanted to, I could cinch it up if it was really cold out. The cowl is just worked in the round, your typical worked in the round cowl, you know, granny, like granny stripes. And again, I put a, you can make it as long or narrow as you want. Now, if you were to keep going and make it very deep cowl, you could also have it to where you could pull it up over your head like a hood if you wanted to. But I just made it long enough to have a nice little puddle at my neckline, and that was that. So you could even just make the cowl separate. I mean, you could make a short cowl, and you could also make a very, very deep cowl to have as a hood. I mean, it's separate. Do what you want to do. That's why I like this pattern. Do what you want to do. As far as the body of the poncho, it is worked in the round. So I can go ahead and take this off. I hate the glare and the camera off my glasses. So it's worked in the round. Your starting point is your neckline. You make a chain, you join your chain, you then make another row, and then you start with your kind of like granny pattern and your increases, and you do your increases in the front point and the back point. Once you get that neckline, that chain closed, and you start working your rows, after you get that first kind of what I'm going to call a granny row to your pattern, it's just working the same rows over and over and over and over and over and over and over until it's as long as you want it. The sizing on this is all from the neckline. Depending on how big your starting chain is the size of the body of the poncho. So, you know, you could probably figure out fairly easily how to make this fit any body it needed to fit. You could make this fit anything from, you know, a very small child to an extremely tall person to, I mean, if you needed this to fit like an 8X person, a 10X person, you could make this fit them. You could make this fit any body. Literally any body you could make this fit. And that's one of these patterns I love because, you know, you can customize it for size and length without much brain power, much mathing. The only thing you have to do is, you know, get your starting chain, the right number of chains to do your pattern. So that's, oh boy, I'm totally confused here. Let me get my mind got ahead of my mouth. Let me think for a second. That's the challenge I live with. This is totally real. That's the challenge I live with. My brain gets ahead of my mouth sometimes. All right, I'm gonna try to get the train back on the tracks. I'm gonna talk about the yarn I used. So the yarn I used is Lion Brand Amazing, and the colorway I chose is called Wildflowers. Lion Brand Amazing is one of my favorite yarns to work with. It's been out for quite a while. It is a wool acrylic blend. It is a self-striping yarn. It has a really soft feel to it. It has a bit of a halo. It's kind of fuzzy and woolly, and it comes in so many different colorways. It comes in brights, it comes in neutrals, it comes in some that are like predominantly blue, predominantly red. You know, there's some earth tones. There's one that's shades of gray. I've got one that's mostly shades of green. There's many different multicolored colorways. So I don't know exactly how many colorways they are in this type of yarn, but there's at least 10, if not closer to 20. And it's hard to find. They used to sell it everywhere. They used to sell it at Walmart. They used to sell it at Michael's. They used to sell it possibly at Hobby Lobby. I don't know. They used to sell it at some of the Joann stores. They used to sell it when Hancock Fabrics was a thing. They used to sell it at Hancock Fabrics. And now I haven't been able to find it in any retail stores, so I order it online. You can order it from the Walmart website. You can order it from fabric.com. You can order it from most of the yarn websites. You can order it directly from Lion Brand. You can order it off of eBay. Lately I've been buying it off of eBay. It's not expensive. You can find it for around $5 a skein, usually $5 to $8 a skein. Eight's the top price for it. You know, that's like the top retail price, but you can find it for $5 a skein if you look. I really like it. It's considered a worsted weight. It has a tiny bit of that thin and thick thing going, but not much. So it's not one of those yarns where, you know, you're going to have for a few feet, it's going to be an errand, and then all of a sudden you're going to come across a section where it's like sock weight. It doesn't do that. So it's very consistent. I found that the skeins are sometimes a little bit, you know, knots to deal with, but not excessive. It's a pretty good yarn. Some people have trouble crocheting with it and knitting with it. I really don't. One thing I will say, it's difficult to undo your work. If you have to, you know, rip back or frog your work, you're going to have to go very, very slow, and you might have to get like a little pick tool, because all this fuzziness you can see, this halo, it likes to grip itself, and the yarn likes to grip itself. I don't know if it's feltable. I've never tried felting it, but it is washable. I've never dried it in a dryer. When I have washed something I've made with it, I have rolled it up in a towel to get the excess water out, and then just laid it flat to dry. So it's a fairly low maintenance yarn. And I don't remember exactly how many yards yards, how many rows I added to get it the length I needed. I just kept going until it was as long as I needed, and then did my 2 rows of single crochet to do the border. So that is that. And I really, like I said, the colorway, I like it because it's colorful. It's not, you know, rainbow bright, but it's still very colorful, but in kind of a muted kind of way. I feel that this is much more wearable of something multicolor, and I really, really like this colorway. This yarn started out originally was going to be a knitted shawl. I had bought 6 skeins of it to make a feather and fan shawl. But that just ended up not being appropriate use for it for a few reasons. A, I got bored with the project really early on. I got about a skein and a fourth into it and got bored with the project. And second, I knit so much more slowly than I crochet. For whatever reason, the brain to hands connection for knitting isn't as solid for me as it is with crocheting. You know, even I know how to knit and I can knit fairly well, but even the basic just knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, I have to be mentally there and as I'm working. I can't just go into autopilot. I can't knit in autopilot. And this was even before I had a stroke. So this is from when I first started knitting. This is going back over 10 years. I never really made that mental breakthrough where I could just knit. Not yet, at least. You know, maybe one day it's coming, but I know people who can just sit and put on a movie and not even watch their hands and just work and work and work on knitting. I can't do it. I can do it with crochet. For whatever reason, the brain to hand connect is much stronger in crochet. So to make this shawl, and especially to make it as big as it needed to be a actual shawl for a person of my size, it would have taken forever. And I just got bored with it. Also, I don't really wear shawls. I've realized I don't wear shawls. And I think when everybody gets started knitting and crocheting, that's one of the things you want to do as a shawl. Because you see all these beautiful patterns and awesome patterns, and it's a great way to show off new stitches you're learning, and it's a great way to use really cool yarn. But I realized I had made myself a shawl, a crocheted shawl, and it's a beautiful shawl, but I've never worn it. And it's just folded up and packed away. So I thought, why am I making, and I have another kind of a shawl wrap that I need to finish that, again, it's just, why did I make this? I don't like things that I have to, you know, pay attention to on my body. I like a poncho. You pull it over your head and pull it down and wrap up in it, and it's not really going anywhere. Shawl pins, you know, are a thing, but I tend to not do good with things that aren't, you know, very securely attached to me. That's why I carry crossbody purses, because I tend to leave my purses and I lose track of them. So I don't like to have things that aren't like really anchored to my body, unfortunately. So I would never wear a shawl really, and I didn't want to invest that much time and yarn in something that would basically be folded away or draped across something, you know, as casual decor. So I very carefully unpicked my work, which took forever because, like I said, this yarn likes to grip itself. But I unpicked the work I had done, and I thought, what can I do with this yarn? And at first I thought I wanted to make myself a set of really funky, colorful leg warmers and colorful, funky arm warmers. But I decided, you know what, I really want a colorful poncho. I had this outfit. It's a black denim skirt, a black long sleeve t-shirt. I wear it with, you know, black comfortable fleecy lined boots in the winter when I'm cold. I wanted to pop a color. So I wanted something that was colorful that I could wear just with a really basic, bland, neutral outfit, I didn't want to make another cardigan, so I figured a poncho. I actually like ponchos, I guess because I was born in 1970. I like ponchos. So that's what convinced me to make the poncho. So I put all of my other projects on hold, and this works up so quick. I burned through the first 6 skeins I had, lickety-split, and I had to order more. So I ordered 6 more, burned through them, realized, ooh, I don't quite have enough to finish. So I ordered some more and was able to finish. And I'm left with probably about 3/4 of a skein. So I had more than plenty to finish. It was a fun project. It was an easy project. It was one I could work on a little bit at a time in the evenings while I was watching TV. And like I said, if you can do a granny square, you can do this poncho, and you can see that, basic granny pattern where you do your corners and that's it. So it came out good. It's a good, simple, basic pattern. So after all that ramble, hope you guys like it, and I will put some links below, and maybe you'll make one. I'm definitely going to make another one. I don't know when or what yarn, but I love this so much, so I'll definitely make another one. And I will be back, and I'll see you guys again in a minute.